Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 7th episode in the Expanding Work-Based Learning webinar series. Today, you will learn about the various ways Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Services can support students, school-based teams, and employers in expanding and enhancing work-based learning experiences for students. My name is Kelsey Teeter, and I'm the Secondary Transition Lead with the Iowa Department of Education. I'm excited to be a part of this important conversation with my colleagues and Mary Jackson with her team from Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Services. We're excited to share more about how local teams can work together and expand work-based learning opportunities for students with disabilities across the state. Just as a reminder, as we get started today, please do use the question and answer tool in Zoom to submit any questions you have throughout the session. We'll respond to as many of the questions as we can at the end of the session. Any questions we're not able to get to today will be answered and posted with the recording, and an email will go out to each of the registered participants. Any questions? Oh, excuse me. I'm now going to hand it over to Mary to introduce her team and the plan for our session today.
Thanks, Kelsey. Welcome, everyone. I am Mary Jackson. I am one of the Bureau Chiefs at Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Services, also referred to as VR. I oversee our programming to students with disabilities in the secondary education setting for our agency. And I have the pleasure of introducing our fantastic team of presenters for today. Dee, if you want to advance the slide for us. We have Rebecca Lohr. She is one of our transition contract managers under VR. We also have Jamie Claywell Herrera, who is one of our rehabilitation counselor specialists, also with VR. We have Tyler Hansen, our business engagement resource manager, also with VR. Jody Whitmore, our rehabilitation counselor specialist with VR. And then we have two special education teachers, both from Oskaloosa High School. We have Sarah Durande and Taylor Zimmerman. And of course, Kelsey Teeter from the Department of Education, who just introduced herself. If you want to go to the next slide, Dee. So our goal for today is for you to leave here with a basic understanding of the key considerations and the value of work-based learning for students with disabilities. So we do survey students as we are working with them and providing services, and hands down, they always say the work-based learning experiences, those hands-on opportunities, are how they learn best as we're working with them to make an informed decision on their future career. We're also going to be talking about the value of individuals with disabilities in the workforce, as well as the work-based learning experiences through the delivery of pre-employment transition services, also known as Pre-ETS. We're going to be covering involvement of schools in workforce development, which school districts are a key component and a key partner in delivering work-based learning experiences across the state. And then also talk about ways our VR program can support students and schools with business engagement overall. So with that, I will turn it over to our presentation team. And let's see, I think it's Kelsey's up next.
Thanks, Mary. A few key things you should know as we build the foundation around work-based learning services for students with disabilities. Beginning no later than the age of 14, IEP teams shift their focus to intentionally begin focusing on preparing students for life after high school in each area of living, learning, and working. This means that schools are intentionally developing a plan and putting the services in place that a student needs to be successful after high school. Work-based learning plays a huge role in that. As we know, research has proven that participation in work-based learning improves post-secondary outcomes for students with disabilities. It's important to remember that the role of voc rehab in each school building across the state is tailored to the unique needs of that building and community to ultimately best serve the unique needs of their students, which is developed through the local school planning process. The local school planning process provides the best opportunity for the school team, voc rehab, and any other partners to collaboratively plan their efforts around work-based learning, as well as any other transition-related services for students with disabilities. As you hear from this team today, it will be important that you bring ideas, suggestions, and opportunities back to your local team to further discuss best practices and strategies to address the gaps and needs in your area. We also know that we can't always do it on our own. A team approach is so necessary, and this is where I hand it over to Jamie to share more about Pre-ETS work-based learning.
Thank you. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, so work-based learning is an educational approach or instructional methodology that uses the workplace or real work to provide students with the knowledge and skills that will help them connect school experiences to real-life work activities and future career opportunities. So I just want to make mention that there are now two different definitions of work-based learning. So the Department of Ed has a definition that differs from Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Service. So for the purposes of today's presentation, we will be talking about Iowa Voc Rehab's definition. The main difference is the Department of Ed's language really talks about a sustained connection with a workplace, where Voc Rehab, it can be a one-time experience for a student. Okay, next slide. So here we have some types of work-based learning that would be available. We've kind of broken it up. Every type of work-based learning on this list would count for Voc Rehab's purposes. But the ones that are bolded would count for Department of Education's definition. So we tried to break it up so it's a little bit easier to understand. The first one is informational interviews. I personally love informational interviews where we have a student have a conversation with someone who is doing the career that they are interested in. I had a young lady that came to me and really wanted to go into cosmetology. She'd looked into it, she'd researched it, she and I did some research, and we set up an informational interview with someone that had been doing that job for about 20 years. My student made a list of questions and the employer answered those questions. And at the end, my student said, you know what? I don't think this career is for me. So I will say that was a very valuable experience for her. And there's a lot of things that we can research, but we really can't know it as well as someone who's actually doing that job. We also do worksite tours. I think this is another great experience for students, just getting them out into the workplace. We do a lot of different tours of like factories or retail stores, so students can see all the different types of jobs that are available. One of my favorite places to tour is a hospital, because the hospital has all kinds of opportunities. Even if you're not necessarily interested in becoming a nurse or a doctor, there's all kinds of jobs in a hospital that you can see on a tour. We also have job shadowing, similar to that tour, where you're getting to see, but you really focus in on one. A job shadow could last a few hours where you're going around with somebody, or it could, be over a period of several weeks where you're trying to get to know that job. We also have short-term employment. Paid and unpaid internships. A lot of schools are partnering with businesses to have internships for their students where they can go in. If they're paid, that's amazing, but unpaid, they can also, earn high school credit for that. Apprenticeships in the community that I am in, our electrical company has apprenticeships for students, so they can get in, learn how to do the job, get paid while they're learning to do the job, and it's just a really cool experience for them. Also have pre-apprenticeships, sustained career project-based learning, student learner programs, and then anything that's looking at industry recognized credentials that students are able to learn. So, okay, now I'm going to turn it over to Becky.
Hello. I'm going to talk a little bit about how some employers may wonder what could be some workforce challenges working with work-based learning and students with disabilities. I think some misconceptions could be that students with barriers may lead to slower work or increased supervision, when in reality, many students and employees with disabilities demonstrate strong problem solving and adaptability skills. Employers may worry about the cost of accommodations, but many requested by individuals with disabilities are inexpensive and easy to implement. Simple adjustments such as flexible scheduling, assistive technology such as visual smoke alarms or keyboards with large keypads could be a small adjustment. Some minor workstation modifications could definitely be available, such as ergonomic keyboards, a standing mat, visual supports and cues such as charts or pictures, or even color coding can significantly enhance accessibility without really creating any financial strain for an employer or business. According to data from the Job Accommodation Network, JAN is as we call it, most simple workplace accommodation can cost less than $500 to implement, with nearly half of them having no cost at all. The median cost for accommodations within a workplace is typically a one-time expense of around $300 or less. A lack of experience working with individuals or students with disabilities can also make employers hesitant. However, partnering with school districts does absolutely provide built-in safety nets for the students and the support systems. Many schools and communities prioritize work-based learning programs, offering structured opportunities that help students gain real-world experience while ensuring that employers receive guidance and resources to foster successful partnerships with the students and the schools. Building strong relationships with the school districts is really essential for providing work-based learning opportunities to students with disabilities. And these experiences really help students develop critical workplace skills, including communication, teamwork, and time management. Next slide, please. So some really great positive impacts for employers. Employing students with disabilities through work-based learning opportunities and programs not only benefits the student, but also it strengthens the workplace. So this type of workforce really fosters a healthy workplace culture, encouraging innovation and really new perspectives from the employees that already are currently employed as well. When students engage with employers in their communities, they really develop a sense of loyalty, strong work ethics, which can also lead to long-term workforce commitment. Additionally, partnerships between employers and school districts and students really support corporate social responsibility. And really enhances a company's public image as well, reinforcing its commitment to community engagement. Next slide, please. So we really have to talk about the school district's role as well, and they really do play a vital role in developing these key skills for students in an educational setting. But we wanted to spill over and partner with community businesses, which allows students to really gain essential workplace skills and confidence to apply in the real world. These opportunities promote independence by enabling students to earn personal income, learn financial management, and really help them gain autonomy. So while social skills are really nurtured at home, they're nurtured in school, they can be further developed in a professional setting. So helping students build new support networks and navigate workplace interactions only aids this process. Additionally, work experience, whether through internships, apprenticeships, or even entry-level jobs, really positively impacts long-term career prospects for all students, providing a strong foundation for future success. I'll go ahead and hand it, let's see, back over to Jamie, I believe.
Okay, so we're going to talk about some key factors to having a successful work-based learning. So the first thing, we really want to make sure we have clear goals and we are working with the student as a collaborator. I always tell students, do you really want me to be picking your job without you? We want students to be involved in this conversation. We want our experiences to align with their interests, their skills, and abilities. And we know, a lot of us are in rural communities. We are not going to have access to every career that a student might be interested in, but what we can look at is what are their interests? What do they need long term? What do we have available that would get them some of those transferable skills that would allow them to reach their goals? So lots of conversation with the student and making sure the student is involved with that piece as we're going forward. The next is having strong employer partnerships. So we really want to engage employers who are committed to connecting with the whole community into mentorship. I'm going to shout out a business in my community, Grant Ranch. If you are ever in Sigourney, I highly recommend the tenderloins. But Grant Ranch has become a really good partner for our school. I initially got connected with us because they were wanting to invest in the school, wanting to be connected with the school, and kind of give back to the community. So we partnered with them and did a few work-based learning opportunities. And really quickly, they realized this was really great for them as a restaurant. It became a pipeline. They were able to hire several of the people that did work-based learning that were able to be trained and ready to go right as they were graduating from high school. And as you know, in rural parts, it can be hard to find staff for employers at times. So it worked out really well for them as well. We also want to be able to provide the employers with training on accommodations and best practices for working with students. Not everyone has worked with people with disabilities before, so we want to make sure we're providing them the education they need. Can we go to the next slide, please? It needs to be a supportive work environment. So we talked about, having a good employer, but we also want to make sure that we are providing resources to the whole staff if needed, if there needs to be a training, if we need to give the employer resources to help create a supportive work environment for our students. We want to have a structured yet flexible setting so that students can feel valued and safe. They can see what they're doing and how they are contributing to their employer. We want to have a culture that encourages learning, feedback, and growth. The whole point of the work-based learning process is so students are learning new skills. And we really need honest feedback. So if a student's doing great at something, that's great. If something isn't going well, the student also needs to be able to hear that so that they can make improvements. Sometimes that one can be a challenging one for employers because they say, well, I don't want to tell them this is something they need to work on because I don't want to hurt their feelings. Well, always, you can say it in a kind way, but giving them the feedback they need to improve as an employee is helping them in the long run. Along with that, skill development and real world application. So if a student, for example, is going into a work experience where they're going to be doing like an internship in a school, having a training plan that has clearly outlined objectives and task and job duties. So a student knows this is what's expected of me. Once I reach this goal, then I can start working on this next task. And you're continuing to increase their skill development as they're going through. And again, getting that feedback so they can see what they're doing well on and what areas they can improve on. The next one, there needs to be strong communication between team members. Employers and schools need to be in regular communication. There's all sorts of things that come up with students. We might be experiencing some of this tomorrow, possibly with snow days. Whose responsibility is it to let an employer know if there's not going to be school that day or if there's a student absence? One of the things that I really like, one of the schools that I work in, if a student is going to be sick or if there is a snow day, the student is supposed to reach out to that employer. And I think that's great. That's a good learning opportunity for students. But they also have a backup plan in case something goes wrong, which staff is supposed to be checking in to make sure that actually happened. There also needs to be communication just again about how things are going. Is this working? Is there something we need to adjust? But the employers in the schools need to have that regular communication. Don't just throw a student in and then back out. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I have two of the teachers with me from Oskaloosa High School. Oskaloosa High School is a school that I believe does a really great job of work-based learning. There's lots of partnerships, there's lots of engagement in the community. The school, the teachers and the administration really see the value in getting kids out into the workplace. And so we have partnered quite a bit, and I'm going to have Taylor Zimmerman join me, and she's going to share a little bit about some of the monthly speakers and tours that we do.
Thanks, Jamie. I'm Taylor Zimmerman. I'm a special education teacher here at Oskaloosa High School, and I've had the privilege to partner with Jamie for the past, several years now. And it's been a big pleasure to have her as our VOC Rehab rep. One of the many things that she does for us is provide that linkage to the community, scheduling speakers, career tours, and so much more. And it's just been, like I said, she comes into the school, works with her students in the school, but also schedules those tours and speakers to come in and gives our students a chance to go out and experience community jobs as well. So one of the things I'm going to talk about is monthly career speakers. So with those, that's really focusing on career opportunities educational programs and activities, and then also living skills for our students. So, for example, some of the career speakers that we've had come in and speak to our students inside of our school building has been a Lighton State Bank financial advisor. So kind of talking about taxes, investing, banking. A lot of our students, we work with them on those things at school, but it's just nice for them to hear some of these things from a business person. And they add additional insight to what we've already kind of talked about with our students as well, which is very valuable. Department of Disability Services came in, talked about voting rights. That was great. PPI, or Precision Pulley and Idler, is another company that came in, and our students were able to see that a lot of our students didn't even had never even heard of PPI before. And that's just a local business, and they got to know kind of what they do and see if there's something that they might be interested in, and if their current career path for high school would align with that type of a job after high school. And then one of the companies that's going to be coming in the next couple months is Inspire, and just kind of looking at teaching our students about hygiene, good dental habits, but also looking at careers as well. So the cool thing about these career speakers is, like I said, it provides our students with those opportunities to look at various careers that might align with their interests, and then talking about those educational programs, and then also, like I said, the living skills. And so that's just been a great benefit to our students. Another one is monthly career tours. And with those monthly career tours, we visited a lot of different places here. They allow students to see businesses in operation and experience careers options firsthand. So just that hands-on experience, getting out of the building. A lot of our students, especially the high school age students, they're tired of being in the building all day, and they just need to get experience things. And this is a great opportunity for them to do that. It also helps our community or employers be visible to our students, and our students also to be visible to the community or employers. And so just kind of what we've already, heard is making sure that those employers, it's really good kind of PR for them to have our students come in and show that they're supporting their local schools. And also, a lot of these opportunities may lead to job shadows, work experience placements, internships, apprenticeships, et cetera. So for example, I'm going to get to the examples here. One of the places we just recently visited, it's called Kelderman's. It's an automotive and agricultural industry leader right here in Oskaloosa. And they talked about how they had some part-time jobs available, and we're willing to maybe look at hiring some of our high school students. So a lot of our students really love that. They were really super excited and have been asking a lot of questions. And we've been talking about, you know, after high school jobs there as well, what kind of career path that might look like for that industry. Other examples of local places that we've toured. Haska Health Partnership, so our local hospital. Like Jamie said earlier, that was really neat. We had a couple students that were interested in nursing and that are currently doing a nursing program through Indian Hills and also receiving high school credit at the same time. So that was really a great opportunity for them to go in and see firsthand kind of what that looks like. But we also have students that have been doing some work experience around the school doing janitorial work, and they kind of got to see that there's hospitals need janitors. Hospitals also they had their own construction crew that was doing some renovating work. And so some of our students that were interested in more of those type of skills and jobs were able to see that you could have a job at a hospital as well, doing those type of things. Another place that we visited was a Cloud Valve and Foundry. They produce hydrants and parts. And we're going to visit we're going to talk about this in a little bit, the Spirit Cafe, which is a student-run restaurant that we've just started in the last year here in Oskaloosa as well. So our students are really looking forward to that visit. Just thought I'd talk really quickly about some of the implications for IEPs that this has had for our students here. Experiences definitely drive post-secondary expectations for students and their high school academic plan. So looking at including that activity under their courses of study. It also can be added to the IEP on the services page under the activities and support stepper as a community experience and secondary transition activity and support. So voc rehab services are very important to our students, especially getting out in the community, being visible to community with the monthly speakers and career tours.
Thank you, Taylor. Along with that, Oskaloosa is recently started what we call the Transition Boot Camp. So there are a few students that have been identified that need a little bit more skill development before they're able to go out into community-based employment. So there's some students that do 1 period a day, some students that do 2 periods a day, working on in-school work tasks. So they are delivering mail or doing janitorial tasks. And then they've invited voc rehab to come in, and we do classes once a week to really work on those skills that they need before they can transfer into the next level. So we're looking on things on like positive communication in the workplace, customer service skills, how to handle conflict in the workplace. So that's been really exciting. We also have work experiences for students. So when a student is ready to go out into the community, like I said, the community has been really engaged with the school. There's a good relationship with the school and the community. We've had students that have been able to go out and get work-based learning at the YMCA, and that actually turned into a job after graduation for a couple of our students. So that's a really nice outcome. But I'm going to go ahead and if we could get the next slide, and then I am going to turn it over to Sarah, who's going to talk about the Spirit Cafe in Oskaloosa, which is new this year, and is just such a cool thing that I'm excited for you to learn about.
Hi, thank you. Again, I just want to piggyback off what Taylor said. We are so blessed to have Jamie and the voc rehab services. They've just really been such a blessing to us and our community and our students. So thank you for that. And I can just tell you a little bit about Spirit Cafe. For years, we ran a student-run little cafe within the school building. 20 some years, honestly, for a very, very long time. We took that from another school district and tried to put that works-based skills into play there within the school building. After years and seeing our kids, and they do so well in school, it really created a lot of great bonds with students in the building and great things happening. But I just kept thinking we're missing something. Work-based skills are so important. It's a passion of mine later in life to do that part of it, not just my special education. And I wanted to see more of our kids in like a sustainable situation where they were going into our community, because a lot of our students are staying in our community and actually getting hired and being successful. And prior to this, we did a lot of work-based experiences. So we got them in actual places where they were working, spending trimesters, but there was still just like a disconnect. We just needed to be in the community. And so we thought long and hard, like, how would we do this? We did some panels on like, what does our community need and for our size? So our community might be different than some. A lot of our available jobs are in fast food, are in food service, are in cleaning and those kind of things, janitorial, those are kind of a lot of opportunities available. But I think Jamie said it best when she said transferable skills. We knew we could provide that too. So we created Spirit Cafe. And well, actually, I presented the idea, and our superintendent, he listened, everybody listened, and our superintendent said to me at the end, he goes, I don't think this is a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when. So we had to have a lot of funding, and it was completely funded by our community. And within probably 5-6 months, I had a very large amount donated to us, and I hardly had to go out and get it. Our community backed us. They were like, oh man, a group could provide work skills to our students coming out of high school to really help us. So we had businesses hopping on with us and saying, yeah, this is what our community needs, and this is what our students need to be successful. So we were really, really blessed when it came to that. And we created this atmosphere where we can give a lot of transferable skills. We talk anything. We employ students of all ability levels. I should say that. We have students who maybe have some special needs, and that can range. And we have students who are peer mentors, and they come in to work right alongside our students. And we have students who want upper management skills, and they're integrated in there too. So we have a lot of different avenues and a lot of different classes at our school that we partner with. Lots of different classes. Even our entrepreneurship class created the space that you see today. So they were pretty amazing. And we work on everything from little small task-based things that, we can kind of go down the avenue of what do they want to do? What would be transferable over into something that they can do, all the way from hygiene and just knowing, what we have to go into a workspace. We have a lot of peer mentors that have never logged in for a job. So there's a lot and working with people and we have a lot of different avenues that we can go down. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask me on those kind of things. I'm just trying to go through all of it quickly. But then we get to a point where we can also transfer those into the community. So that's when I kind of work with Jamie a lot of times to help me get them placed into businesses in our community. Then they can, some of our kids are doing like 50-50 where they're kind of working here, then they transfer over, and then the hopes is that they're completely on their own eventually. And we've done things with Musco, a large company where we have a young lady who covers the entire business, which is huge. And she delivers mail to Betsy's Boutique, who sells clothing with the store owner, to the YMCA. We've done Mahaska Bottling. We've done lots of kids and lots of placements, and we've gotten them there successfully. So we're very proud of that. We also do offer just a unique option in the front of our store. So my previous job, I was a level 2-3 teacher, and I had students who really struggled. I had some that community placement wasn't for them, and they tried, and we tried, and for one reason or another, they had barriers that prevented them from going into the community. And it was a super passion of mine of like, what can we do? What can we give them a purpose to do every day? How can I help them? And we came up with this entrepreneurship deal where we have two sides. There's entrepreneurship, there's our service side, and then there's our good side. And our good side is maybe they have a passion. So I have a young lady right now who's an adult in our community. I should say, so to work at Spirit Cafe, you have to be in high school. That's the one umbrella there. Because it is credit, and without going into that, that's kind of how that works. So this front of the store, we can offer to anyone in our community, the adults in our community. And the school district has worked with me to agree to that, which I'm so thankful. And I have a young man who does woodworking, and he has found, even though he can't work in the community, he does this woodworking with his family, and they create bird houses and different stuff. And then he packages and advertises and brings them in, and we sell them in the front of the store. And then we have one that does t-shirts. Even though he has found that he struggles being in the community, he has some large outbursts. And he can go independently, 100% independently into their little basement, which they've made into a t-shirt shop, and he creates t-shirts. And then we, market them for him. And I have a young lady who just started creating, she creates like keychains, and they're glitzy and glamoury, and she does some magnets. They're so adorable. We sell 1 million of them. And actually right now we're working really hard with those students, or those adults, excuse me, to come up with real professional looking packaging so that we can hopefully help them market to other stores and get them into local retail stores so that they don't just have to be with us all the time. We want to get them expanded and get them going. And then we have the service side, we have a service board. So it's kind of like a board that if you walk into a local place and pin a card on, you'll see those kind of things, but we kind of turn everybody else down. We make it kind of subject to us. And so we have somebody who does web designing. We have somebody who walks dogs for a living, does lawn care for a living. And again, these are adults in our community that didn't have a purpose prior to this, and now they've created their own building or business. And some of these have also collaborated with Jamie and worked with Voc Rehab to get funding to get that started and going. And I know that's been a blessing on their families as well. I don't know. I'm hoping I'm not missing too much. I'm sure there's probably a few more things, but yeah.
I think that sounds great. Thank you so much for sharing, Sarah. And I think we're going to go to the next slide for Tyler now. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. It's so invigorating to hear all the amazing things that are happening throughout the state. So I'm just going to go through some employer benefits, and some of them are really that talent pipeline. So the employers will be able to develop a relationship with you as the partner, helping get the students to the opportunities that business has. They get to engage with the student, as well as you get to engage with the business. It really just develops that relationship, and it creates a pipeline for those businesses so they can come back to you and say, hey, we've worked with you previously. This is a really great opportunity for us to create, a sustainability model for some of those positions that they may see some turnover in, or as they see growth opportunities, they could see a connection with you guys as you have students that are looking to graduate or look for some opportunities for work. The other nice thing about it is, train the incoming workforce. So the employers can do some of that intentional training with the work-based learning to give some experience for those workers to help establish those really good habits, learn how to do the job properly, and really see firsthand that people understand the work prior to hiring the individual for the position. This can also be, we use the example of the welding, which is steel welding versus aluminum welding. We had toured an employer, and they said, I'd prefer to train them myself the proper way, because steel and aluminum welding are two different things. So that's a great way for a business to really be able to train somebody in their techniques and their habits. Also a great way to cultivate new talent. This is a way that helps encourage continued learning for the employer and the individual. So it helps broaden some perspectives from the current employees. It also could lead to some innovative ideas within the workplace. So as people are coming in and learning the skills, it also really rolls into enhancing that current workforce. Part of the other thing about this pipeline that comes into play is lowering training and recruitment costs. So as they're training individuals, they're not having those additional costs. And then also, if they have that pipeline, it helps with the recruiting, which on average, based off SHRM's records, are about $4,700 for the recruitment costs, and then an additional $1,047 to train new hires. And that all varies business to business, but that was just the average that they had put in there nationally. So it could be a cost savings measure for an employer as you develop those relationships with work-based learning into employment. Move on to the next slide. Also, the question is, how do we collaborate? There are so many resources out there. We're all reaching out to employers. We're talking to businesses. How can we collaborate and network together? So, as the school district is doing some outreach to the businesses, as VR is talking to businesses, as workforce development is talking to businesses. How do we make sure that we are not overwhelming that business? We're talking about that single point of contact model within our own division. So really having that conversation of, let's do introductions so that employer has that established trust and relationship within the division. The business engagement division is a great example of this. They have amazing contacts and resources that they have developed with businesses, but they're able to connect the business to what they're asking for, whether it's the apprenticeship team, the veterans team, they're connecting to the VR division, but they're great individuals that are in those local American Job Centers. So collaborating within our networks and who do we know, so we're not overwhelming those businesses, and being really intentional with those partners. Resource sharing. So kind of going back to what I just said a second ago, you know, as you are working with the business and you hear some of their needs, maybe they want to go into the veterans, or maybe making a registered apprenticeship, kicking it back over to the VR office to support with connecting internally with Iowa Workforce Development is really will enhance that relationship as you develop the contact to the business. So then that business gets a really good support system from all entities, and that's just only going to enhance your relationship. So you're showing the resources that are available. And then coordinating introductions. Warm handoffs tend to be the best way to talk to an employer instead of off the street doing cold calling. So if you have a trusted partner that's doing introductions, that has been some great ways. Again, going back to the business engagement division, they're amazing individuals that have connected us to several opportunities. So using the connections and resources within those partnerships. And then labor market information. As those team members that are talking to businesses, sometimes the best information is straight off the conversation. I use the conversation of Iowa Event Center. You know, their labor market information, because they had shared that they had 75 people that they're currently doing contract work for, but they'd prefer to hire internally. That was a great example of that. We knew their business need, but it wasn't a conversation. It wasn't posted anywhere, but it was through conversation that we learned, hey, we have some needs. How do we get connected? So off the street labor market information, or utilizing the LMI division within Iowa Workforce Development, as well as being really intentional with knowing what's going on, knowing hiring, layoffs, hiring freezes, upcoming needs, current needs, etc. And then we'll go to the next slide. This is just a quote. And this kind of showed some of the collaboration that had happened. So this was a relationship that a school district had developed. It then developed into a community rehabilitation program, which got some additional people jobs, and then it built up to the VR division. So we're supporting with more individuals getting jobs into this employer, and now this relationship is growing, and they're all over the state. They're actually all over nationally. So this relationship that had developed through work-based learning is now creating an opportunity for more individuals statewide to get opportunities for work. And this is just a quick quote that they had shared with us. You know, it means the world to us working with you all. We're happy to work with such great individuals and watch them grow themselves, but also with us as a business. We're all a team here, and everyone's efforts never go unnoticed. So it just really showed that the impact of work-based learning had impacted the individuals as well as the business. So those are some benefits that we had shared. So I'm going to kick it over to Jody.
Thanks, Tyler. So I'm going to talk about overcoming challenges and misconceptions, and then wrap it up with talking about some best practices. I just threw on some pictures here of students at one of the schools I work at, Fort Madison Community High School. There's a young lady working at Hy-Vee doing some work-based learning in the restaurant area. She was able to go on and get a job after she graduated. Middle picture is some students volunteering at Lee County Conservation. They're bundling some wood and just doing a project, but they're also getting skills in the meantime. So we try to get them out in the community and active. And the last picture is a student just working at a store in the community, filling up a shelf at the store and just getting some of that experience as well. Next slide. So some of those misconceptions, work-based learning is only for high achieving students. The reality, work-based learning is designed to support all students, including those students with disabilities. And some of this stuff has been talked about, but most of us have seen the data and the research that's out there that shows meaningful work experience while a student is in high school is really a strong predictor for employment upon graduation. And that's not any different than for students that have disabilities. So getting them out there is equally as important. And in addition, employment just contributes to developing strong and positive adult identities. And among other positive correlations, it shows them and others that there are options for them in the community, which is a beautiful thing. The next one is only special education teachers handle work-based learning for their students. The reality, forming a team for these students is really important. And I know we've hit on that a few times, but this is really a statement that we use a lot with Voc Rehab. We try to form a team for each of the students that we work with. It's very individualized, but it's important to have everybody at the table. So having the work-based learning coordinator, the family, the employer, if there's a community provider, having them at the table, a job coach. Everyone's a valuable asset, and really everyone has a role that they can play to really make it successful for when they are in the community. And then the last one, expectations should be lowered for students with disabilities. We work with these students day in and day out, so we know that work-based learning should really be an opportunity to challenge and empower students with disabilities. We know that when students with disabilities are given high expectations and the right resources, they're able to achieve the tasks and meet those goals. So instead of maybe assuming that they could only do some kitchen prep in the back, really consider what else could they do? Could they help with inventory, or maybe they could be trained to do some customer service? What are their strengths? We really want to challenge them and to help them grow as well. Next slide. So some of the best practices, and a lot of this stuff has been discussed as well, but making sure that experiences are individualized and really driven by student preferences. It's important that we're considering the student. What has been done up to this point with the student? Have they done assessments? Have they done job shadows? Have they had some of the informational interviews? It may not be exactly, what they're looking for. I had a student that was wanting to be an airline stewardess, and we ended up doing an informational interview with a Delta stewardess. Obviously, we couldn't get her that job, but they discussed customer service being the #1 thing. And so we were able to connect her with a business in the community doing some hosting. So really looking at those transferable skills, what is going to help them with that long-term goal of really reaching, being a stewardess. And the last thing is just I'm skipping on, identify disability specific needs for the student in addition to providing support and or training to employers on how to help or support the student. What is it that's going to really help the student at the work site be successful? This may be accommodation needs, the need for assistive technology, helping with disability disclosure and having the conversations, really considering what, if any, if job coaching is needed on the job, and really just trying to set them up for success, which also includes possibly educating the employer. And that's something with VR that we do a lot of, just kind of educating them on some of that support that they can provide that they may not even realize, some of those things that may be easier than they are thinking. The last one is keeping communication lines open between that team that I had talked about on the other slide. And that's just to really ensure that we're addressing the concerns, we're providing the support in real time, so that if there is something that needs to change or, the student needs to do, we're making that need, and we're really supporting them. I also wanted to mention that we, if you haven't done it as a school, if you haven't had the discussions about work-based learning, we do a local school plan as VR every year within the school. And so it would be good to mention, or a good space to start the discussion about work-based learning, because we're having everybody at the table and discussing what the needs are for the school, what we're all doing, and really how we can collaborate and really make it work for the student. So I just wanted to throw that in there. This concludes our presentation. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. We added a quote here that's really consistent with what we're talking about with work-based learning for these students. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. Benjamin Franklin. But it's really true. Getting these students out there with work-based learning is a huge thing. It's a huge step for them, and it's something that we strongly believe in. And if you guys have questions, we're going to open up the floor for questions now. You can type them in or unmute yourself. Also on the next slide are all of our emails. So you feel free at any point to reach out to any of us. We would love to talk to you about any questions you have, or if you wanted to collaborate in any shape, way, or form. I believe the PowerPoint is going to be sent out after this. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
This is Kelsey, and I also see that we did receive a question in the chat during the presentation. And the question was, how are you able to run a student cafe? We have been told that it's not allowed. So I wanted to start it in response to that question and just sharing that, like Sarah mentioned, having the backing and the support of your school administrators and your community can make a huge difference in impacting the availability of work-based learning that is available to your students. So, I guess I would need a little bit more clarity around the why behind that guidance that you've been given, but ultimately it really is a school district, a local team determination, whether or not they want to operate some sort of student cafe, student ran business, that type of opportunity. So really working with your local administrators is going to make a difference in what's ultimately available.
All right. And with that being said, I am not seeing any additional questions in the chat. So we just wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. Like Jody said, if anybody has any additional questions, our contact information is on here. And following this, the information will be posted on the website as well, the materials that we utilized or emailed out in some fashion. So everybody that attended will get a copy of that. Thanks, everyone.